I'm Debbie Adams, I'm a trustee for SCVO and I've been on the board for just less than 3 years.
And why did you decide to join the board at SCVO?
One, I was really impressed with what the organisation was doing, so it was a cause, if you like, that was something that resonated with me about the voice for the sector, ensuring that the sector flourished and grew and that together we were like stronger together. So I wanted to make sure that I had something to give to that as an organisation that I resonated with. I also wasn't volunteering at that point, and I'm really passionate about volunteering. I almost felt like my duty wasn't being done by not having volunteering in my life, so this felt like something that I could give time to, and that volunteering was important.
Hi, I'm Farha Jamadar. I am a SCVO Trustee and Treasurer, and I've been at this position for maybe 6 to 7 months now, so I'm pretty new. Resonating with Debbie, this is probably why I joined. This is my first ever position as a trustee. It was daunting, but I decided to definitely go for it because it merged my professional and my personal passions in giving back. And once I qualified, it was an opportunity to be able to kind of get my own insight into a different industry, a voluntary industry, which is very close to my heart.
I'm Richard Jennings. I'm the chair of the board here at SCVO, and it's coming to the end of the first year. And I kind of, interesting why I joined the board is ultimately I've been involved in other organisations similar to SCVO, so I've had that great opportunity. I also knew about the reputation of the organisation, which is very positive, and I thought, actually, I'd like to work with that team. That'd be a great opportunity. And I quite like governance, but I also like to make sure that we're doing it in the context of why we're here, what's the purpose of the organisation, who we're serving, and what impact we have. And if I can bring that interest into a board and share it with others, then I think that would be great. And it really love being part of this board. Great group of people. People learn from each other, they talk to each other, they listen to each other, and it's great to see how the organisation's thriving in a difficult time.
Yeah, you're not a trustee, but no.
So I'm Anna Fowlie and I'm the Chief Executive of SCVO, and I have been for 6.5 years now. I really value the board that we have, particularly because we have a combination of elected and appointed trustees, and I think that really adds to the governance of the organisation and adds challenge to me and my team. And I love SCVO because it's so different to any other organisation I've been part of, and I wanted to apply for the job because I really wanted to challenge before I retire.
So one of the kind of most important relationships in the whole organisation is probably between the chair and the chief exec. And being the chair, Richard, what's your kind of thoughts around how to make that a successful relationship and make it work?
I think you need to come at it with a fairly open mindset and not a fixed view on how you would. It's not a direct line manager type relationship at all. It's very much about building trust, and that's both sides. So, are you demonstrating that you have the interests of the other person at heart, so that you can actually build that trust? But also, are you collectively building your shared competence? Because I think as well for the board, they're looking at the relationship between the chair and the chief exec, because that has to work to give the board confidence. So I think your duty there is actually about that balance between support. And if there's challenge, it's about constructive, but also thinking about challenging yourself. At the end of the day, it's the chief executive turns up 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever time it is, and has that accountability and responsibility.
And what about from your guys' point of view then about that kind of relationship with the board in particular and the chief executive and SMT?
You definitely can see it's based on trust. It's definitely a case of a safe space to be able to get your view heard, but also challenge other people. And you do see it. You know that when Richard is chairing a meeting, he's looking at what we're looking at for. But then Anna, in respect, will have every single one. She's anticipated those sort of questions as well, and it works. That collaboration works really well. It gives us trustees confidence as well to know that what we're thinking and our interests and the interests of the organisation are at the forefront of these meetings.
Interesting. I think it also depends on which type of organisation people are chairs of. So I was chair of a much smaller charity where the chief exec is Director of HR, Director of Finance. So they actually can be looking for the chair to be to bring some skills and experience that they maybe, because they won't have everything in the week, so you end up with a different kind of chair in that respect. I mean, I've never been in where there's a personality clash, but if we're all there aligned about the mission of the organisation, then that makes the chair and the CEO's relationship a lot easier, because it's like above that relationship, it's actually about what the organisation is here for, and when you see that at the heart of what the whole board's about, then it makes that relationship a lot easier as well.
Yeah, and I guess the SCVO members are all shapes and sizes of charities, aren't they? And there's no, I always think there's not kind of one size fits all for boards. Every single board I've ever worked with in any capacity is completely different. Even on paper, you think, oh, they would be the kind of the same, they're not. It's always set up differently, and you're right, I think those smaller charities, maybe the different type of chief exec, I've been there too, I know exactly what that's like. And I think, that's what you guys are here for, isn't it? To help all different types of charities and get access to what they need to support.
But I think that if you think about a trustee, it's like what kind of board then do you want to be on? Because the last one I was on was about wanting to be closer to direct beneficiaries and see what's, whereas this one I definitely wanted to have that broader overview. So think about the match of what does the organisation do and how close are they to the action, if you like, and whether they you're being supported to see that. I know my last organisation, we would take trustees out on visits to our project so they get a real feel for it, so when they're in looking at the finances, they could translate that to, that's what this, so that, I think that's also really important to get a feel for what the organisation does.
What about from a treasurer? That's quite a different role actually in an organisation as well.
I guess from my perspective, I'm used to seeing things from up top or the strategic view. We are talking a lot about the members and the impact, impact and how we can reach them and do better in what we can do. And that gives me a lot more pause for thought of it than kind of going back into the non-financial factors as to how we can do better and how we can actually make all these organisations' lives better. And how we can, again, do better for them as well and work for them. And that's how I would always see it.
Yeah, because we're here to serve your members.
That's exactly it, yeah.
Okay. And I think there's one big question that we get asked quite a lot when we're going out to recruit for people onto boards at Aspen, is, why are these roles not remunerated? Why, well, that's a voluntary role, isn't it? It's a lot of work for a voluntary role. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts on this question of paying trustees and chairs to be on boards, if you're for or against it, or had any thoughts at all?
When I think about all the volunteering roles that are out there, this is probably the least demanding when you think about volunteers supporting children at risk, victims of crime. When you think about that, so if you're going to pay board members, you then say, well, why wouldn't you pay other volunteering roles? Because arguably they're as important, if not more. And governance is really important, but I think that, the buck stops when we've got the accountability, but if the organisation's set up right, that is limited. I think it's different when you're thinking commercially and all that, but I do think there is a notion about volunteering, and maybe that's the thing that we're able to give back, which is that governance bit in a way that I don't have the time to do a weekly befriending and maybe don't even have the skills to do that well, or I have them for this. So there's a bit of me about, I think when you open up, it's the thin end of the wedge for me around if we're starting to pay trustees, then why wouldn't we start to pay other volunteering roles, and then the voluntary sector as a whole, I think, has a crisis problem.
Yeah, because that word volunteer, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're just members of staff. And
Yeah.
a whole different kind of...
And the dynamic for what you're then,
Yeah.
Anything for her?
I completely agree. I think part for me, as a trustee, I wouldn't choose to be paid. Simplistically, I choose to be here, and that makes my presence a little bit more, I guess, impactful. I think if I was paid to be here, it almost mar the way I operate, or the way I would question things. I feel like I'm here on my own time, and I'm here because I have that's my own duty to be, and I want to be here, and that makes that look more, gives it more integrity.
I think Debbie makes a great point, is that actually I enjoy giving of my time. It goes to what is the heart of volunteering. You enjoy giving your time and hopefully seeing that have a positive impact. It is easier for me to give of my time in a moderately professional capacity as a board member than it is to spend an hour at 4 o'clock doing befriending service or supporting individuals. So I'm very aware of how I can what time I've got to give. And therefore, I'm not looking for remuneration in that, because it is me just hopefully giving a little bit back, but I get from it. You know, you get a rich conversation, I get to see the world from a different perspective, and you know, it's fun. It is genuinely good fun being on the board, and that's what's going to be there. So you're not looking for remuneration. I think if you're looking for remuneration as part of a career and your overall work that you're doing, then there are lots of commercial opportunities out there. Go explore them, and that's where you'll find your home.
Yeah, I think it's about playing to your strengths, isn't it? Yeah. Not everyone's got that kind of skill set to go and do every friend thing, or even, you know, get up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning and do runs and, you know, buckets and stuff like that. I think you play to your skill set and your strengths. Yeah. There's quite a mixture of people on the board. You know, someone like yourself, it's your first role, you've not been here for that long yet, you've been on a bit longer, and I know there's other members of the board who've been here for quite a while. And how important is that diversity of thought and that diversity just in general really to the board at SCVO?
I think it's really important for me as a chief executive to have diversity of thought particularly, also diversity of experience. So you've got someone like Farha who's coming from the finance sector, which is a very different perspective to sort of not a trustee, but to someone like maybe prior to this was always in the public sector, and Richard's been in every sector you could imagine. So I think there's something really valuable about having all those different perspectives.
I always think the role of trustees is kind of like a critical friend, you know, to, unfortunately, the chief exec and the SNT. It's that kind of being able to challenge and question, but in a really supportive way, and making sure it's coming across. And I think if you've got people from different backgrounds, that's kind of almost always going to happen because there's different approaches. What about yourself, coming from a finance background?
I think it's just always been very commercial for me, you know, profit and are we, you know, we hitting margins. It's been very black and white in that respect. Working as a trustee here, it makes me give pause for thought, you know, the non-financial implications, you know, the greater impact, and that's the word, it's the impact. It's not just, you know, the financials and whether we can grow and rule the world. It's a case of whose lives are we touching and how much difference can we make, and that's where it really is satisfying. On the other side of the coin, you know, it's been great for my imposter syndrome. I remember coming and thinking, oh, I've bitten enough more than I can chew, but I realise I've got transferable skills. I'm able to sit there and go, oh, I understand that, but maybe if we do X, Y, and Z, then that's how we can achieve it from that perspective. And as time goes on, I feel like my voice is getting louder and I'm understanding.
Why do you think it's important that, you know, there's a lot of attention paid to getting the right people on the board and having that really strong board in place so you can have a sort of good governance practice?
So ultimately, there are always certain skills that you need to have in and around the board table to give confidence to the scrutiny, the challenge and the support. But that's also, those don't have to arrive on day one. And I think that actually you really got to encourage people who just want to explore becoming a board member. And I think if you're interested in becoming a board member, you don't have to think, have I got the skills first? You think, am I interested? Am I willing to do the hard work, read the papers? Am I willing to reach out and ask the questions? Am I willing to kind of engage with the other members of the board to increase my understanding? And if you're happy to learn and you want to keep learning, I mean, we had a board meeting today, and I learned so much about how we can operate as a board, and think it was hard work. Yeah, my brain's a bit fried, but we'll all improve our skills together if we're engaging and listening. So I think you need certain skills for sure, but also don't let that be a barrier to being an effective board. You develop them, you learn them, and you just keep developing, keep thinking about how you can improve.
And I think the most important thing is passion for what the organisation's about, because you can learn all the other stuff, and it's a voluntary position. So why would you give your time to something that's just another thing in your CV? It's more important to you to actually care about what the organisation's doing, so you then feel really committed to doing the effort.
I think matching those values is really important, because I've been in the position myself, you know, you're on a rainy December night, you're at a board meeting, you come out at 9 o'clock and you think, why am I doing this to myself after reading all the papers and everything? But the reason you do it is because you want to be there for a particular reason. And I think that is just as important as the skills.